So let's move on to Sony. I guess the big screen for the, and probably what we're going to spend most of the time on before I get to the questions, is the A95K, which is a QD-OLED, a Quantum Dot OLED. This is new technology for this year. Now, I'm not going to bore you getting into all the technology behind it and how it produces its picture and all the rest of it. All the information is out there. We'll come back to it because we've got plenty of time before these TVs are released. We'll come back to it. We'll explain the technology. We'll even get QD developers on to explain everything behind the technology. We'll get them on the podcast. We're already talking to them about that, and we'll get the interviews all lined up. So in terms of a TV, it goes back to the Monolith design of a few years ago. I believe it was the A1 was the first one to have the Monolith design like this. So it stands on a stand on the mounting surface, and you can either have the stand at the back, and there is a 3-degree lean back on the panel.
That's less than it used to be, is it not?
It used to be 5 degrees. So it is a change, 3 degrees. And you look at it and you think, my God, that is unsturdy. But actually, when you go up and try and tip the panel, you can't. You could if you put enough pressure on.
You'd have been popular if you talked it.
Yeah. But it's one of these things you just think, oh, God, that looks unsafe. But actually, it's there's enough weight in the stand that it's not going to topple forward, and there's enough lean back on it. There are Visa mounts on the back. So if this stand is not for you, you want to wall mount it, or you want to put it on a more traditional stand and get a sound bar underneath, there are Visa connectors on the back there that you can do that with. So that still exists. But Sony are definitely selling it on the Audio Surface Pro that's on here. So again, that's 2, and it's a new actuator. There's 2 actuators on there, 2 subwoofers. They're newly designed to go with the QD OLED panel, because obviously it's a new panel, new structure to it. So they have been changed the design wise, but it still works the same. It still vibrates the screen to create the sound. So the sound comes from the screen, and it's a fantastic technology. It's actually won, I think, 2 Editor's Choice in a row awards from us, because there's just something about audio coming from the screen where it's supposed to be. If somebody's talking on the screen, the voice isn't coming from a sound bar that's below the screen, or a speaker that's above the screen, or 2 speakers to the side of the screen. The voice is actually coming from that person's mouth that is on the screen, and that adds so much to believability of the scene that you're in. It doesn't take you out, and it just looks really, really natural. It's why the speakers are behind the screen in the cinema, and why people put acoustically transparent screens in their home theaters. It's to get that effect of sound coming from where it is. So sound wise, again, the Acoustic Surface Pro is on there. Excellent system. There's a new remote control, luxury remote control. I'm coming to the picture quality, don't panic. The design is beautiful. It really is a stonking looking TV, and Sony have always done it incredibly well when it comes to design. And this is their flagship TV. So let's get on the picture quality. We did have a demonstration. It wasn't against the competitor's OLED. It was actually against the A90J from last year. And the first thing that my eyes noticed, and it's something that maybe not everybody's would, but because I tend to calibrate TVs all the time and so on, is the white balance. There is a perceivable difference in white balance between the screens because of the panel makeup. So QD is very much redder against a cyan-looking A90J, and that's what I would expect from a WRGB panel to a QD OLED panel. In terms of color saturation, it is fantastic on the Quantum Dot TV, as you would expect, as the hype suggests. Is it as night and day a difference as the hype is being made out on the internet? No, of course it's not. And again, these are post-production models, pre-production models, I should say, and there's still some tweaking going on, and it's going to be a few months before we actually see them come to market. Is it a worthy upgrade? Absolutely. And I'm going to be looking very, very closely. I was really impressed with definitely the color saturation, the color volume that is available from this set. In terms of
ask
go on.
the living in a cave question on this?
Yeah.
I mean, is this still a panel being built by LG Display and modified by Sony, or is this their own work being built by them in their factory?
No, this is Samsung Display.
Oh, okay. Sorry, that's how little attention I was paying.
No, this is Samsung Display. And the odd thing is that Sony have actually gotten in front of Samsung Electronics in terms of getting this technology out to market. Sony really have gone with this and taken it on board and pushed it out as a product, where Samsung seem to be a little bit more laid back in their approach, shall we say. But of course, they have their QLED screens that they still have a lot of faith in as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Samsung introduce this technology to the market. But certainly Sony are going for it gung-ho. It's their Master Series TV for this year. They believe it produces the performance that fits in with that Master Series. Now, we did have the demonstration, like I say, with the A90J. There was also a BVM 300, which is their OLED mastering monitor that's used by studios and color graders for mastering content. So it was interesting again and I keep saying interesting, to see this monitor against the two OLEDs and see how close they actually did get to the mastering monitor. In some degrees of accuracy, color was more towards QD-OLED, whereas the white balance of the mastering monitor was far closer to the A90J. It had a bit more of a cyan look to whites on the mastering monitor and the A90J than the QD-OLED, which was a little bit more yellow, a little warmer in the whites. So that was a demonstration which I thought was fair. Obviously, it's still put up by a manufacturer showing off new technology, but it was against their screen from last year, and they were saying, this is better than what we did last year, and the differences were there to be seen. So am I excited for QD-OLED? Yes. I really want to get my hands on one and actually sit down and spend some quality time with it and do all the testing that we normally do and push it and see just what it is capable of. But so far, and what I've seen, and that was the first time that I have actually seen in action, it looks tremendous. It really does look good. It's going to be a difficult choice this year when people say, what OLED should I buy? It's going to be difficult. In terms of peak brightness, it's going to be roughly the same as the A90J. Again, Sony do not give out anything in terms of technical information, in terms of zones on a mini LED, which they are introducing mini LED this year. We're running out of time. I don't have time to talk about that tonight, but we will talk about that on the next podcast. And again, they don't give out the technical details. We will do all that when we get these TVs in for review. We will measure them. We'll give you all the numbers. But yeah, it's impressive stuff from Sony. And I've got to say, I thought Sony had maybe not quite the swagger in recent years that they have had with Bravia and their TV technology. They're coming back this year, and they're coming back with, like I say, mini LED with the X95K, the A95K QD OLED, and even the A90K, which is their 42 and 48 inch, really impressive screens, beautifully designed. They have a stand, and if you look at the pictures which Stuart has up on screen, that should say 48, not 28. Made a mistake there. But if you look at the stand, it extends up, so you can extend it up for a soundbar underneath, or you can have it flush, as you can see on the 42 there, against the surface. So you have options with the stand on those two sizes again. And again, 42, it looks tiny when it's up against all the bigger screens, but I can see it being really, really popular in a lot of living rooms or bedrooms and so on.
Well, I was seriously considering a 42-inch OLED for my bedroom television until the conversations about new roofs began, and now I'm not considering any television. Ever.
Yeah, so, but yeah, I can see the appeal. I think, like I say, I've got a Philips here to experiment with, and that's a 48-inch, and I'm going to experiment with that for video editing and using it as a computer panel. And see how I get on with that. I think 42 is probably the sweet spot for video editors and so on. People who maybe hobbyist, or you do it for YouTube or whatever, it might suit you in terms of using it for your video production. Obviously, it's not a professional system, but you're not paying 30 grand either for having that professional monitor. So yeah, they look really, really interesting. Like I say, mini LED looks interesting from Sony, but it's the A95K, the QD-OLED, which is going to quite rightly get all the attention this year and get the hype, because it is a new panel designed for OLED, and it's introducing something new to the market, which, if we're being fair, has kind of just drips and drabs over the years. There hasn't been any major developments for a number of years now, so it is nice to see something new coming to market. So yeah, that was the 2 days that I spent. Obviously, there's still lots more to talk about. There will be a video of the Sony TVs as well coming up with Gavin. That should be live. If you're watching the podcast on the Wednesday night, that should be live on the Thursday. If you're watching a little bit later in the week, go check out the YouTube channel for those videos with LG and Sony. Lots more details in there, especially if you're interested in the mini LED. Sorry, I don't have the time to talk about it tonight. We will come back to it.
We'll revisit it.
It is interesting, because one of my bugbears with some of Sony's TVs is that, yes, in terms of accuracy, especially the LED LCD TVs with local dimming, accuracy-wise, in terms of looking like their massing monitors, they managed to do that, but they did that at the expense of black bars, which would bloom. It wouldn't be completely black and so on, which kind of takes you out of the movie if you're watching a scope movie. Obviously, mini LED solves that problem for them, so they can still have the accuracy and still have the jet black bars top and bottom, which was really noticeable. And of course, with mini LED, you have lots more zones to play with. And of course, you have Sony's master drive technology, which is incredibly clever in what it does. So again, I'm really excited to see that in action and play about with that screen as well. So.